Good morning. It is Anne from Connected Touch Wellness Consulting here with the first video in our Flex Your Wellbeing Muscles series. This series is going to help you reconnect with your body and use your body's hidden superpowers to improve your overall well-being. I'm filming outside, so you may hear some ambient noises. I have some very pleasant birds keeping me company. If it gets too loud, we'll just take a pause. All right, so this is the beginning. Let's start. What I'm going to talk about today may seem simple, but it's deceptively simple, and it is absolutely the foundation of everything else we will be talking about in these series. Because I'm going to talk about how we should be checking in with our body on a regular basis. This was inspired because I work with a lot of kiddos who have autism spectrum disorder or sensory processing challenges, and I'm always saying to them, check in with your body. What is your body telling you? How's your body feeling? And after a while, it kind of clicked that I'm not really doing this for myself. And why not? I think it's because I'm an adult and I kind of just assumed that I knew. Like, I kind of just understood what my body was telling me. And I didn't. Like, a lot of times when I would take the moment to check in with myself, I was like, oh, actually, I didn't realize that. I think we get into kind of a routine. We get into kind of a rut. So it's important to stop and be present. And I like to say, check yourself out, like TSA, but a little less creepy. Check yourself out and see what your body is doing and what it's trying to tell you. Again, incredibly important. We're going to check in with 3 systems. Doesn't take very long. I picked 3 because 3 is kind of my lucky number, which you're going to learn as you go through these videos. And the systems we're going to check in with, I call our BMI. I want to reclaim that term a little bit because I don't know about you, but being a woman, sometimes I get a little testy at the sound of my BMI. But we're going to talk about BMI, and by that I mean our belly, our muscles, and our inhalations. Okay? So why those 3? We are going to check in with those 3 because those are the 3 systems that I personally feel affect my sympathetic nervous system. What's my sympathetic nervous system? If you heard of fight or flight, that's your sympathetic nervous system. That is the process in your body that responds to a threat by putting you into survivalist mode. I actually think there are 3. This is not my idea. This is something I learned when studying sensory processing. There's fright, flight, or fight. Sometimes people say freeze too. I freeze a lot, so I guess I should include that as well. Anyway, the sympathetic nervous system is our response to stress or danger. It is incredibly crucial for our survival. Maybe not so much in modern ages, but when we were, hunter-gatherers, like we needed to have the ability to instantaneously respond to stress or danger. And when that happens, a lot of hormones go off in our brains and blood rushes to our heart and our body gets like ready to go. It happens without thought. It's not a conscious thing. You know about reflexes. It's kind of a reflex in a way, although it's more complicated than that. And it's not inherently bad. Again, it's crucial to survival, and it's just the way our brains are built. The challenge is you don't want to stay in that fight, flight, fight response all the time. Because if you do, you're diverting all your oxygen and all your resources to that stress reaction, which is not what your body needs. It makes it hard to get into the parasympathetic nervous system, which is where you rest, digest, recover, and that's where growth happens. So, sympathetic nervous system, not bad, but not where we want to live. And I feel like a lot of us live in it quite frequently. It is linked to anxiety disorders. I was reading that it's linked to Parkinson's disease, which I did not know. But there's a lot of reasons you don't want to stay up in that sympathetic nervous system, So these 3 systems, the BMI systems, are things that I've identified as reactions that I'm recognizing that are taking me into that sympathetic nervous system without me even realizing it. So bringing me up into the stress without me even knowing it, without it being a conscious choice. Let's review them. The belly, the muscles, and the inhalations. Let's get started. Belly. So I want you to take a second and I want you to think, am I hungry? Am I thirsty? You're probably laughing right now. You're probably thinking, I know if I'm hungry or thirsty. You kind of might not. I cannot tell you how many people in my life I personally will say to, you know, I think you might be hungry, because they get so grouchy. They get so like shaky and irritable and angry, and it's because they haven't eaten in 4 hours. And they don't realize it because it doesn't cross their mind to check in with their belly and see what the signals are. Um, Lots of people have different metabolisms. We're not really going to get into that, but well, not yet, not in this video. But I think the most important piece for this is to check in and say, what's my blood sugar doing? Is my blood sugar telling me that I need to put some fuel and sustenance in my body? Because you might not always have that thought. You might just be going up into sympathetic because your body goes into survival mode. Your body can be super dramatic. It's going to be like, oh, I haven't eaten in so long. Oh, everything's worse. Oh, I gotta, and you don't really realize it. You just have that reaction of shakiness, weakness, anger, concern, frustration. You just will have all these other signs that is what your body is trying to do, is tell you to eat. And if you don't check in with yourself, then you don't know, and you could, have an emotional reaction that's unnecessary. Side note, when I was talking about this, someone said to me, are you trying to tell me to be an emotional eater? Are you trying to tell me that every time I feel angry or sad, I should maybe eat something? No, 100% not. I'm telling you to be the opposite. I'm telling you to be more of an intuitive eater. I'm telling you to listen to your body, check in with your body, and learn to discern when you're having an actual emotional reaction and when you're hungry. It takes practice. It doesn't come automatically. So no, I'm not telling you to be an emotional eater. I'm telling you to be a reasonable, intuitive eater. Having said that, I believe in the power of cookies and carbs to lift your mood, but that's a whole other video, so we're not going to talk about that right now. The other aspect of this is thirst. A lot of us don't really think about hydration because we assume that we would know if we were dehydrated. I was reading at the Mayo Clinic has a definition of dehydration. They were saying that feeling of thirst you get is actually one of the last signs your body sends to you that you're thirsty. So it's good to check in and make sure you're having some water. Again, this seems kind of simple, but once you start doing it, once you sort of start checking in, you'll realize how often you're not doing it, how often you're not checking in. You get caught up in your day and caught up on what you're doing. If any of you are parents, you probably will go 3 or 4 hours and you've fed your child so many times, and then you're like, well, you haven't fed them that many times, but you've been so thoughtful of what they're eating and what they're drinking, and you forget about yourself. So check yourself out, check in with that belly. Let's see what it's telling us. All right, BMI. We talked about B. M. Our muscles. Again, this might seem kind of simple. You might be thinking, oh, I know what my muscles are telling me. But do you? Like, if you are not working out, or if you don't twist your ankle, or if you aren't, walking by a mirror and flexing, how often are you actually checking in with what your muscles are doing? I'll give you an example. A lot of times if I'm at my desk writing paperwork, I'll take a pause and I'm like this. And I don't even realize it. It never even occurs to me. So I've got my neck forward and I got my jaw clenched. I got my shoulders raised up to my ears. And it's because I'm deep in thought. And I have kind of a high stress job. So I'm also kind of trying to get it right. And when I'm in that mode, I clench like this. So if I don't think about it, I can easily sit like that for 20 to 30 minutes. Why is that bad? Good question. So first of all, it sets up uneven movement patterns and creates tension in your muscles that doesn't need to be there, which can lead to pain down the road. Even if you're not feeling pain exactly when you're like this breathing and you don't even notice, you might not feel it then, but it can create patterns that will lead to pain down the road. Second of all, again, remember we were talking about that sympathetic nervous system where we were fight or flight? What does this look like? This looks like you're ready to fight, or it looks like you're ready to run. I'm never ready to run. I hate to run. But this looks like my fight position, like I'm getting ready to punch something. So if you are like this, tense and tight and whatever, your brain is reading that as, uh-oh, we're in a stress situation. It's going to start sending that adrenaline and that cortisol through your system. Again, this is all without you thinking about it. This is a subconscious process, but you basically created your own stress response in your brain. And we talked about why we don't want to stay in that for 20 minutes while you're doing your paperwork. So that's why it's really important to be checking in with your muscles. Check out your tension. See what position you're in, what you're holding in your body that you might not even be realizing that's triggering your brain to go into that survival mode. You don't always need to be in that survival mode. You need to be resting and digesting, not putting your dukes up ready to fight. This is a really big one for me. I do a lot of stuff without realizing it. Like, I finally realized that I was sitting at my desk with my feet pressing so hard into the carpet that, like, you could feel the rigidity in my calves. I wasn't in any danger. I work in a very safe environment. I was just so focused that I was putting so much tension into my body. And then I was like, why am I so tired? Why am I so tight? Why is there so much tension? And it's because I was creating a stress response, doing something that shouldn't have been stressful, and my brain doesn't know the difference because it's getting those signals from my muscles. So check in with your muscles. We're going to talk a lot more about this in future videos, but this is kind of just the brief overview of check in with your muscles. Make sure that your shoulders are down, your neck is loose, you're not clenching your hands, you're not pressing into the ground with your feet. You're just in your body, and it's natural homeostasis. So, BMI. Bellies, muscles. What's the last one? Inhalation. This is a huge one, and I think it's one that we don't talk about, like, at all. Breath. Breath is kind of a loaded thing right now. Just to give you some context, I am recording this in August of 2020, and the phrase "I can't breathe" has become a credo for the Black Lives Matter movement, and we are currently living in a time of a pandemic with a virus that attacks the ability to breathe. So I think at this point there's, at least 1,000 people dying a day from this virus. So I want to take a moment to put this into context and to express my gratitude that I am someone who gets to be concerned with my breath. And I want to offer you the opportunity to have that gratitude as well, and to have that perspective of, if you are healthy and able to take the moment to think about your breath, you should appreciate that. So now that we've placed ourselves in the context of when this is happening, I think that breath is incredibly important. I'm going to do a whole video about that too. But think about how you're breathing. Take a moment and recognize what your respiration rate is. A lot of us are like, some of you guys are yogis and you do this natural deep breath without even thinking about it, and you are my heroes. But most of us in modern times aren't taking deep breaths. We aren't taking slow breaths. Our natural respiration rate is kind of increased and kind of shallow. Again, why would that be a problem? I mean, obviously most of us are getting enough oxygen, we're walking around, we're functioning and everything. So there's a survival level of oxygen, and then there's the optimum level of oxygen. And if you're doing this, you're not getting that optimal level of oxygen. Again, you're functioning, you're probably surviving, but you're actually denying your body of some of the oxygen that it needs. Also, again, remember the sympathetic nervous system. What do you do when you're scared? You go, it's like the horror movie cliche, right? Most of us are breathing like that as we go around our day. Again, when we shouldn't be in this fight or flight reaction, most of us are still breathing like that. And we are triggering our brain to think that we are in a stress situation. It's pretty simple. I mean, if your brain is recognizing that you are not getting enough oxygen and that you have an increased respiration rate, it is probably going to read it as you needing those resources, as you needing that adrenaline, that cortisol to get through whatever situation you're in. And then if you stay in that for a long time, again, you're using up your body's resources, and you are putting yourself into a physiological state that does not lend itself to mental and emotional well-being, because you're in that crisis mode, whether or not it's conscious. So I want to challenge you to make sure that your breathing is slow, it's even, it's full. We can't probably belly breathe all the time. Again, we're gonna do a video about this because that looks kind of silly, and I mean, I don't know about you, but when I'm talking, I have a really hard time being like, so that's probably not practical. But we can check in and make sure that we are actually being conscious of our breath and not doing the scared rabbit. I think it makes a big difference. Try it. Let me know if you think it makes a big difference. So that's it. That's our BMI. Our belly, our muscles, our inhalation. Those are the 3 systems that I want to challenge you to check in with on yourself for the next few days, I guess, is a good challenge. You don't have to do it every 5 minutes. Obviously, we're living life. We're busy. But if you're going about your work, or if you're parenting, or if you're visiting with family, or you're doing anything where you're starting to kind of feel a little tense, I want you to check yourself out. I want you to check in with that BMI and figure out, are any of these systems sending me up versus keeping me in a stable homeostasis? That's my challenge to you. It sounds dramatic, but this has been life-changing to me, especially the muscles and the inhalation. I have to tell you, I almost never forget to eat, so that's not been one that's changed that much for me, but it has been really instrumental to several of my loved ones who have said to me, you know, I always thought I was really upset, but then I realized I was just hungry. So that one's important too. For me, the muscles and the inhalation have made the biggest change. I'll be interested to hear if you are drawn more to one than the other, or if you feel like one is more effective than the others. Check us out at connectivetouchconsulting.com. You can reach out to me on Facebook or Instagram. It's all Connective Touch Consulting. We're easy to find. Reach out to me if you have any feedback. And as always, I am here for wellness consulting or holding space with you if you need someone to kind of sit with you in these troubled times. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I really enjoyed creating it. But yeah, BMI, check yourself out. Let's keep those bodies in the parasympathetic nervous system. Let's keep them in the quote happy place so that our brains and our emotions and our spirit don't have to deal with a stress response when there doesn't need to be one. There are plenty of things we need to be stressed about. We may as well eliminate the times that we don't need to be stressed. Okay? All right, thank you guys. Be well. Talk to you soon.